Desert Life, here's the woman. Everybody, please welcome Jodie Foster. Thanks for seeing you. Welcome to the show.
Wow, a real audience.
It's a proper audience.
I thought there were just going to be little cardboard cutouts.
No. We went for that because it was cheaper, but it turns out this is way better. This is an interesting movie to make, and a lot of people saw that, or not a lot, but several saw this as a comedy, and it's got its moments, but it's not a comedy.
No, it's hard not to see it as a comedy because of the premise. You know, it's about a man who, at the worst moment of his life, suffering from deep, deep depression, just about to commit suicide, dons a puppet and starts to speak through the puppet, through the Beaver puppet.
Right.
But no, it is not a comedy. It's a drama, and it does have its light moments. It has its absurd premise, but little by little, you start moving towards a much more emotional film.
You took a long time in between directing a project, so
Yeah.
something about this had to reach out to you?
Well, there was a whole bunch of reasons why I took a long time. I had children, and I had an acting career, and I, had another movie.
You still have one if you want.
I guess.
Yeah.
I had another film that got the plug pulled very close to shooting, so I had all sorts of excuses. But mostly it's because these films are hard to get off the ground, and making personal movies, and I make personal films, is always difficult to do, and difficult to kind of download your whole psyche onto a script and make that happen.
Are you an emotional director? Are you really personally connected to the people you work with and the story?
I think I am, but at the same time, I'm equal parts emotion and equal parts intellect, too. And I do make films that have both of those qualities to them, so I'm a little schizophrenic that way.
When you worked with Robert Downey Jr., he talked about how you wrote him a letter afterwards saying you got away with it this time, his behavior and his addiction and all that, but don't think you can get away with it all the time.
Is that what I said?
Apparently.
I'm not sure that was
That's what he said you said.
He wasn't reading so well at that time. He's an extraordinary guy and wonderful in my film, and I do love him, and he continues to be a friend. And I think what I said is you are able to continue to sit on the bar stool without falling off. But at some point, that's not going to be the case, and you're going to fall off. You didn't this time, but you will someday.
Well, I mean, 15 years ago, or even 10 years ago, a Jodie Foster, Mel Gibson movie would have a very different storyline, but now you're out selling a movie where Mel Gibson's going through so much and been through so much publicly. Just entering the process of selling that film now, he's a friend of yours, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
How is that going?
Well, it's an incredibly difficult time for him, and my first reaction when I heard the news of the problems that he's had was, of course, was to put my arms around him, and he has bigger fish to fry. He's wonderful in the film. I'm absolutely grateful for the performance that he gave. It's an extraordinary performance. Can people look past that and really see a film for what it is, and his performance for what it is, which in some ways is informed by his complexity.
There's a moment at the end of this film, and not to give any of it away, but there's that scene at the end with him and his son. It's the scene that even the hardest person in the world breaks. It's a spectacular film, but that scene, from what I gather, was shot the day the tapes came out.
The day
Did you know they were coming out?
No, it was a bad moment, but we didn't know that. No.
How do you manage an actor when you recognize something's up? Something profound.
I was less worried about the actor than the man. I think, as I said, I just threw my arms around him, and I will love him for this forever. Worst moment in his life, and he came in and sat in his chair with no makeup on, and the plane was waiting, and there was no rehearsals. We just did take one and take two, both of which are magnificent and are in the film. And at the end, I said thank you, and he said thank you for letting me for a few minutes become somebody else. And he got on the plane and left. And it was a spectacular performance that is a great gift to me.
How do you get past the controversy around Mel to get them to open up? And you said, will people be open to it? How do you get them to do that?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I don't know. He's an extraordinary actor, and people ask me all the time, who is the man that you know? And it's very easy for me to be honest about that. He's an incredible professional. There isn't anybody in the film business that doesn't love working with him. That we all know.
But you can see why there's this visceral reaction to him now.
Yes, of course. He's had private moments recorded and posted all over YouTube. Yeah. And I don't wish to see any of your private moments on YouTube. So there you go.
Neither.
Or it's no.
Me neither. And it's interesting because when you first came up, and when people first started to hear about you, it was in a completely different era, where you were able to grow up and you were able to have private moments, and that probably helped inform the kind of not just actor you would become, but also the kind of person you became because you had time in between.
Yes, but you know, it is a weird job and it does take a toll.
Yeah.
I think I've made some crazy sense of the job, and there are weird, absurd sides to it. But it does take a toll on you as time goes on. And you know, as I say, I'm nutty as a fruitcake.
You are?
Oh yeah.
We talked a bit about you know how you sort of started when you were so young. Could you just imagine what it would have been like to be your age in Taxi Driver, playing the character you played, getting an Oscar nomination at that age today?
Yeah, it would just be pretty much as weird as it was then, I suppose. Yeah. I think what really changed is when you turn 17 or 18. I mean, that I'm not sure I would survive that now. I'm not sure I would want to go through that time frame in front of the cameras because, you know, times have changed. You have those big, long lenses and, you know, news and entertainment is confused. Those two things are confused now in ways that it wasn't then.
Yeah, for sure. How about as you get older as a performer?
Well, does it get easier? I don't know. Look, my mom always said to me, by the time you're 17, your career will be over, so you need to figure out what you're going to do. And then I thought, oh, okay, well, then I was 18 and 19 and 20, and then she said, listen, when you're 40, you'll be done as an actress, because women over 40, they don't act anymore. Yeah. Well, that didn't happen for me either, so I don't know. I guess I had one of those weird careers that just kept continuing.
Did you feel pressure when you were young? Because there's this idea that, you know, when a young actress, essentially you're making the money for the family. Yeah. Did you feel that kind of pressure to go and get those jobs and bring home money?
There was a little bit of that. I'm not sure I would put it that way, but I felt responsible when we didn't have money. I felt like I was doing something wrong. It's a really bad idea. That is not a good, it's not a good way to have a child grow up. But I've had lots of therapy.
Now, let me ask you, in the therapy, did that come up early, or did you have to arrive at that was a key area?
No, you know, it's something that I acknowledge. I acknowledge it with my mother. I mean, I talk to her about that, you know, a lot. You know, Mom, this was a very bad idea. You realize this, don't you? And she made the best of it. She really did. And she had rules and ways to try to help me be as well adjusted as possible. You know, she used to make me do everything. So I had to take out the trash, and I had to make all the, you know, reservations and for airplanes, and I think that was a good thing because you can't stump me now. But at the time, I was a little irritated.
You see the value in it now, right?
I really do.
And what happens if a child comes to you and says, you know, Mom, I want to be in this business?
I just ignore them and keep moving on.
You do?
I do. But as I say to my kids when they say, why can't I be on TV? I say, well, look, there's this great theater school down the street, and you can go there after school. Instead of going to baseball or any of that stuff, you can go to theater school, and then you can, you know, learn theater. And they go, man, it's all right. No. I'm not that interested.
You're Jodie Foster. Can't you just get me on TV?
There's a lot of that.
Do you, is your confidence level as a director, does it match the confidence level you have as an actor?
No, definitely not. I'm not as confident in myself as a director as I am as an actress, but that doesn't stop me from, you know, fully bossing everyone around, I guess, and getting what I want on screen if I can.
All right, don't go anywhere. We're going to ask Jodie which commercial she's ever acted in. That's actually her favorite. It's Anthropology with Jodie Foster after this. All right, you're back here with Jodie Foster. Anthropology. Did you name your movie The Beaver because you know its cultural significance in Canada?
No, I did not. I was actually looking for the incredibly weirded out face that everybody says when you say, my next movie's called The Beaver.
Right, yeah.
And they just look at me like... that was worth it. That was really worth it.
When we heard you calling the movie called The Beaver, we went, right. Right. Who cares what it's about? She's calling it The Beaver. That's good. Did anybody ever say to you, like, we can't do a movie called The Beaver?
Well, a lot of people said, you're going to change the name, right? And I said, absolutely not. Why would I do that?
The other name in Canada that would have worked is The Caribou. All right. You were so young when your first commercial. What was your favorite commercial that you remember doing?
I'm sure it was the Coppertone commercial. I mean, my memory of that was they asked me to be in a bikini, and I just kept crying and taking the top off. I'd never worn a top before, and I just was not about to wear a top. And the character no longer wears a top.
You were a kid. You were able to do that.
I was.
It only got later when it got weirder, right? It was because you.
At 3, hopefully it's okay.
Yeah, 3 should be okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel as you got older because I mean, you know, in Taxi Driver, and it's such a sexualized character.
Yeah.
Did it ever get a little bit weird and more uncomfortable for you later in your career, in producers' rooms or directors' rooms?
Well, for whatever reason, the casting couch never came. Nobody wheeled that one in for me. I don't know why. But yeah, there were moments that were weird. There was a time in my life when I was maybe, I don't know, 13, 14, 15, where I was like every kid, you know, I had some pimples and I was chubby, and I got that weird thing once where I went in for an interview and the guy said, can you take your jacket off and turn around?
How old are you?
I don't know, 14. And I just was like, it floored me. I was crestfallen. And I went back and you know, that was it. And I went back and told my agent, and my agent, the next time he saw him, punched him in the face.
Good. And if you ever...
That's not how we're supposed to... We're supposed to handle things with our words.
No, not always.
Right.
Not always. A guy who asks a 14-year-old girl to turn around like that should get punched in the face. If you look at old pictures of Dino De Laurentiis, you'll understand why he had a black eye. How many times does it annoy you if somebody ever calls you Clarice?
I love it.
Do you?
Yeah, and I like the Chianti and the fava beans, the whole thing.
Is it scarier? Is it scarier when they say it slower?
It's a little creepier when they say it slower.
What's the bravest thing you've ever done?
What is the bravest thing that I've ever done? The stupid brave or smart brave?
Stupid brave.
Stupid brave. Oh, stupid brave. This guy was at a corner and he stopped and he was so angry at this man who was correctly stopped at this red light but wasn't turning right on red. That the guy had road rage and he was starting to, you know, he got out of the car and he's pushing the other guy's car, and the other guy was just cowering in his car. And I got out of my car and started, I was a police officer. I opened his door and I was like, get out of the car! And the guy's like 6 feet tall and he's looking at me like, are you insane? And my friends pulled me away and took me away.
That is kind of insane. You hosted SNL when you were 14. Do you remember the musical guest?
Brian Wilson, all by himself, singing Good Vibrations, all 5 parts of the harmony.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was weird.
As a director, do you take more from 3 of the greats that you've worked with? Martin Scorsese, David Fincher, or Neil Jordan?
David Fincher and Neil Jordan, mostly. I think Martin Scorsese is just too intimidating. I don't think I could take anything from him. It's just too intimidating, and I was too young. But David Fincher and Neil Jordan, the 2 most opposite directors I've ever worked with.
It's good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Jodie Foster, everybody.